Steinman. I'm a sustainability specialist for the New York City Department of Education Office of Sustainability. I'm going to be hosting the webinar this week, along with some really great people from the Office of Sustainability and from our Youth Leadership Council. We couldn't have made today happen without you guys. So thank you all so much for joining us, and for the Youth Leadership Council for hosting all of our climate action planning sessions, and for helping to make this climate summit possible. So today we're gonna, before we jump in, we're gonna talk about some logistics. So like the past weeks, this session is gonna be recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you miss any parts of today, you can always hop on, see the recording on YouTube afterwards. Also, just to go through a couple things on our Zoom webinar platform. So like the past weeks, we're going to ask you guys to ask questions in the Q&A. So if you look at the bar at the bottom of your webinar screen, you should see a Q&A box. So if you have specific questions for the panelists or for ourselves, put it in that Q&A box. We're also going to leave the chat on for the whole session today. So if you have any specific thoughts or you want to answer any of the questions that we're asking, go for it and do that in the chat. And then finally, we want you guys today to locate the raise your hand button in Zoom. We're going to be asking you guys to share out with that a little bit later in our session. So just open the bar at the bottom, locate the Q&A button, the chat button, and raise your hand. That's awesome. And when you use the chat, make sure it's set to all panelists and attendees so we can all see what you're saying. Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about climate careers. So first off in the chat, just share out, is anyone interested in a sustainability or climate-oriented career? And if so, what were you thinking? What would you like to be? So this is our third year of the Youth Climate Summit. In past years, it's looked different. We've normally had a climate expo where we've had the opportunity to have organizations, nonprofits, private companies, and universities from across New York City come to the expo and share different opportunities with students, like jobs, internships, different degree opportunities. So unfortunately, we couldn't make that happen this year because we're in a virtual format, but we wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to kind of imagine themselves in climate-oriented careers and sustainability careers, and that you got to experience different stories of different pathways from professionals in the field. So in order to do that today, we're having a career panel with our lovely Sarah Poon, who is a senior at Bronx Science High School and is a first-year student in our Youth Leadership Council, and Meredith Mcdermott, who is the director of the Office of Sustainability. So welcome, guys.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. Meredith Mcdermott here. Thank you so much. I just want to give a really big thank you to Eliza for all your hard work, of course, and Pat, all of our behind the scenes crew who are been working really, really well to get this event organized and going and to really make it possible. So thank you to the team for doing that, and also for our Youth Leadership Council. The fact that we might be virtual this year, but I'll tell you one thing, we might not be able to have such an awesome career panel for you if it wasn't for the virtual format. We have people from all over the country who are here with you today to speak to you about their experience. So we're really, really excited about that. And then the fact that this is a really big kind of momentous occasion in that you're not just going to hear me, you're not going to hear me talking at all. We actually are having this career panel entirely hosted by a member of our Youth Leadership Council, a high school student. So this is kind of this is coming full circle in that this is really meant to be an event for students, but it's for students by students. So thank you to all of you for really helping to make that happen. I think that's an incredible success in and of itself. So without further ado, just want to say thank you to our panelists. You guys are amazing, and I can't wait for people to hear from you and learn from you. Without further ado, Sarah, I'm going to have you come on and take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. Thank you for the introduction, Meredith. And I would love to ask the panelists to each give a brief introduction on themselves before we move on to the questions that are prepared today. So we can go from left to right. Kevin, would you like to start?
Of course. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin J Patel. I'm a climate justice, intersectional climate justice activist. I have been one for 10 years. I'm from Los Angeles, California, specifically South Central Los Angeles. I'm also the founder and executive director of OneUpAction International, an organization that prides itself in helping young people just like yourselves to take climate action and be change makers within their own communities. And we offer resources to all leaders. So check out OneUpAction.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Dannell Baird. The Kevin J. Patel. In the comments. My name is Dannell Baird. I run a climate tech startup named BlocPower. And we focus on clean energy and renewable energy in low and moderate income American communities. With regard to climate work, besides my day job, I'm on the board of the Sunrise Movement nationally, which advocates for the Green New Deal. And I'm also on the board of the Sierra Club Foundation. And Vice President Al Gore has a nonprofit called the Climate Reality Project, which educates young people around the world about the changing climate. So I'm super excited to be here with all of you today.
Thank you. Ellie?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ellie Khan from the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. At the Mayor's Office, I am a senior policy advisor working on solar energy, sustainable food systems, workforce and small business development in the climate economy, and other things as needed. In general, the Mayor's Office of Sustainability develops policies, programs, and initiatives that help New York City get to carbon neutrality, that clean our air and our water, and that harness New Yorkers' unique talents and perspectives towards building a more sustainable and just city.
And hello, I'm Anastasia Cronin. I am the Director of Youth Leadership with the National Geographic Society. And so my work is really to support kind of established and emerging young leaders like yourselves on their journey to taking action alongside others on some of the biggest issues facing our world, like issues related to climate. And so my job is to help create opportunities, build community, training resources for young leaders to really give them the tools and resources to take action themselves on some of these big issues. My own background has been quite varied. I've been a documentary filmmaker. I've done field research locally and abroad. And so I've had lots of different career twists and turns that I'm happy to answer any questions about.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kepler. I'm from the Wildlife Conservation Society's New York Aquarium. The WCS is a global organization. We do work in over 60 countries around the world, but a lot of New Yorkers know us by our 5 facilities: the Bronx Zoo, the Aquarium, the Central Park Zoo, Prospect Park Zoo, and the Queens Zoo. And I have had a weird career where I started as a wild animal keeper at the Prospect Park Zoo and then went to the route of education. I've worked at Central Park Zoo as a teacher, and I'm at the aquarium now as our manager of volunteers and visitor engagement. And one of the absolute joys in my work is that I get the privilege of working with our youth, which I want to give a shout out. I noticed a whole bunch of them are in attendance here today, some of our WCS youth. And with our youth, we do all things from advocacy to educating about wildlife conservation, climate issues, and they do such amazing work, and it's such an honor to work with them.
Thank you for your introductions. We're going to start with the first question, and feel free to hop in and make this as much as a conversation as you like. How did you know your career path was the best fit for you? And was there an aha moment along the way that pushed you into pursuing aspirations in your current field? Does that still motivate you, that aha? And anyone can just hop in.
So I'm happy to share. So I can't say that in my own career path that I always knew exactly what direction it was going to take. So I always think that my career is always evolving. And so I'm never just kind of happy exactly where I am. I'm always kind of stretching and reaching and wanting to try new things. And I think for me, a aha moment that really kind of helped shape my path and my career goes back to high school biology class, my freshman year, and starting to learn about how natural systems worked, really opened my eyes and started getting me excited when I was just walking around in the world and being out in nature. And that kind of excitement has continued to drive me in my work and has always helped guide me when I have taken twists and turns in my career path.
I'd be happy to share. So I always thought that my career would be working with animals and saving endangered species. And while I was an animal keeper, you know, I was breeding or helping to start a breeding program of critically endangered turtles. I was helping to take care of animals with specific conservation plans. But the aha moment that I had was anytime I interacted with a guest through our education department, and seeing them just like have their own aha moment and seeing that either there's something that they just weren't aware of or that they could do something themselves and really be a piece of a conservation puzzle. That really pushed me to pursue education. And I mean, just now giving those people constantly, our guests and even the youth who join us, and seeing their aha moments, and that just drives me every single day. And it's my favorite part of my job. And the most gratifying part of my job is really helping other people also find their aha moment.
I can jump in. My career was definitely more of a trial and error type of situation. I definitely tried things and said, oh, wait, do I like this? Do I not like this? What do I like about it? What do I not? For example, I ran my own business for a year and I could not, it was not for me. Meanwhile, somebody like Donnel has like killed it in operating and growing a really successful business, serving New York and in New York. So it's you sort of get through your career and you figure out what sort of jives with your needs and your talents.
Yeah, would Kevin or Donnel like to add on to this conversation?
Yeah, for me, I started out as a community organizer. I wanted to help people in Bed-Stuy and Brownsville, which is where I grew up and where my family grew up, and in Crown Heights. Grew up around a lot of people who were poor families that didn't have much money, and so wanted to like create jobs and economic opportunity. So started out as a community organizer in politics for like 10 years. And then eventually worked for the first Obama campaign and then the second Obama campaign, and then kind of learned that business was actually, for better or worse, was the way to ensure that we could create jobs for low-income people. And so started a company and have been learning how to try to run a business for the last like 5 or 6 years, but been really fortunate to work with people like Ellie, as you know, a partner in the government, and learning about the relationship between like governments and businesses and public-private partnerships, which are really critical for addressing climate change.
And I'll hop on. Like Donnel, I'm still a community organizer, and I'm working with communities not only in my community of South Central Los Angeles, but communities all around the world. And I've really, when I first got involved, I was, again, working with the community and looking at policies and implementing motions, working with my local government. Now I'm working with, international governments to institute, the first ever youth climate commissions, getting young people within government. But I will also say that I also have been in positions where I'm working to distribute wealth, where, I've worked as a strategic partnerships person and really making sure that we can get opportunities with big organizations as well as celebrities into these movements so that they're, amplified and those communities can actually get some change. So I definitely think career for me, as a community organizer, I always looked at a career as career for change. And if you're not helping your community, then why be in the work that you're doing? So I definitely have always looked at it as not a career, nor as a hobby, nor as a passion, nor as a choice, but it's a survival tool for many communities. And the topic around climate justice, right? It's definitely something that I really wanted to help communities with. So definitely still a community organizer, and that's what is the best fit for me.
Awesome. Thank you for adding to this conversation. Now I'm going to ask some targeted questions to each person, but just a little friendly reminder. Anyone can hop in if they feel like this question applies to them in some way. So first, I have a question for Jennifer. What is a lesson or value working with animals has taught you, and how has this helped you further your interest in wildlife conservation in your current job today?
So in working with animals, that was the start of my career, was being an animal keeper and taking care of some of the most endangered species on the planet. And one of the things that I learned from them is that they can only, in our institutions where we, tell their conservation story, they can only do so much in terms of, helping to conserve and protect their wild counterparts, but it's really up to us to help share their story and really bring that story to the front and really expose people to it in really creative ways and engaging ways. And that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to switch my career path from this animal focused life of, taking care of animals and helping with all these conservation plans in that way, but taking the chance to inform people and activate people to take part in conservation. So they've taught me a lot in that we have to speak up for them. And in our programs, we do a lot of that. There's a lot of storytelling and really creative ways for people to learn about these animals and come to love them and be passionate about them and be inspired to do something for them too. What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, how has that contributed to your job, your career?
Yeah. So, my main role in the work that I do is to kind of give our guests at the aquarium just this amazing experience and wholesome experience that, they do come to the aquarium and our facilities to really have fun and, have a great time with their friends or their families. And our job is to make it fun, but sneak in some education and messaging that, we can inspire people to want to take part in conservation. And we focus our messaging around, especially our local area. A lot of folks come to the aquarium and then forget that there's a beach right on the other side. So bringing awareness to that New York is a really wild place, and there is an amazing abundance of wildlife here. We're helping to open people's eyes up to that. And we do that through the amazing young people who come to the aquarium to volunteer with us and take part in our various programs. So a lot of my career has really shifted in really just following something that I'm really passionate about, which is sharing this with other people and kind of showing them this light that we are all really passionate about in our facilities through the WCS.
Thank you. The next question is for Anastasia. How has prior experience in the field and in television production broadened your perspective? And did it encourage you to work with youth? Why and how?
Such a great question. I was always motivated by wanting to get out in the field and to travel. And so when I first got out of college, that kind of took the form of trying to find fieldwork opportunities, whether it be archaeology. I was able to do a primate research project in Costa Rica. But then I always had this desire to, I always was challenged with really honing in on one scientific topic that I wanted to get further education on. And so I really saw television production and documentaries as a means to continue to study and learn about different things and explore the world. And so both of those experiences gave me a really amazing worldview, allowed me to learn about such a diversity of topics. And you know, part of my motivation was always to make change in the world through storytelling or through research. And more I realized that the most important work from my perspective was really with youth. So, you know, a lot of the documentaries I made were for, you know, adult audiences, but they have the greatest impact on young people because they can see different perspectives, see different different approaches to different issues. So I really transitioned my work to youth in the last couple of years because I do really believe that, you know, youth are the future. It's not just a cliche, it's really true. You guys hold the keys to society's future. And so, you know, adults, older adults, they're often more stuck in their ways. So young people are the ones that are hungry for new learning opportunities. They're at a time in their lives where they're just consuming a lot of information and just have so much potential to kind of, you know, shape how our societies evolve. So youth really are kind of the key to solving all the world's issues. No pressure, guys.
Thank you. The next question is to Donnel, and it is, if you could go back in time to when you were first working on founding your company, BlocPower, what is a piece of advice that you'd give yourself? It can be motivational or it could be a specific, hey, Donnel, in the future, you should know this.
I mean, that's a really great question. I mean, I think when you're starting a business or a startup, a lot of times you can get caught up in like fundraising or the hype, but really the purpose of your business is to serve customers and make your customers' life better in some way. And if you're working in climate, it's to make your customers' life better and save the planet. Like that's the goal of your company. And so for me, if I could go back and give myself some advice, it would be, you know, really focus on finding ways to like help our customers figure out what our customers want to accomplish and help them understand that we're their partner in accomplishing it, and make sure that we hire people and train them so that we can help our customers to accomplish their goals. And so that I think is the focus of any business, or should be. And sometimes things get confusing and complicated, but I would just remind myself to focus on that, focus on making customers happy.
Thank you. And I have a similar question for Kevin, and it's for founding your organization, OneUpAction. What would you tell yourself if you could go back in time prior to establishing your commission and organization?
Of course, you know, I would tell myself to keep pushing, right? It doesn't take a day or a week to make change happen. It takes quite a long time to make change happen, and you have to continuously fight for change. And so I would just continue saying to myself, if I can go back in time, is to continue fighting. Because you know, there are millions of activists all around the world, including your young, you know, all the young people that are attending this you know, webinar. I think you can make change in the issues that, you know, affect your community. You just have to continue fighting for that. And take it from me, I was able to, with the help of a friend, you know, pass the very first ever in the world and in our nation as well, first ever in the nation and first ever in the world Youth Climate Commission. It would have never been possible if I didn't push myself, right? And to continue pushing myself. So just, I would tell myself to keep going and keep fighting for, you know, change.
Thank you for the advice. I think a lot of the audience, the young audience here, can take it for whatever obstacles that come in the future. So final personalized question is for Ellie. And what are some obstacles in policymaking that you've encountered, and how did you manage them? How did you feel prepared, and why? And also, is working in policy different than what you initially expected?
Honestly, I'll answer the first question first. I didn't quite know what to expect about what policymaking was. I was like, there's going to be some analysis, there's going to be some talking to people, and then you somehow figure out something to do based on that, which isn't that far off. You really have to sort of feel your way through it. There's no one way to develop policy, and you need to be very flexible to be able to do whatever is needed to try and figure out how to get from point A to point B. So that's something I really like about it. But if you like doing the same thing or like really specializing, then a lot of policy work may not be for you. Something that's challenging, I think that some people do assume that policy making is like, I'm the ruler of the world and I'm gonna develop this thing and everybody's gonna do it and it's gonna go exactly as I say, which is like so far from the truth. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to incorporate a lot of different stakeholder needs and inputs. And that can be really challenging. And we know that we need to make very bold, very dramatic changes very quickly to make sure that, the city doesn't literally sink into the water and that, we're protecting the environment here and abroad. And we also need to make very, very bold and rapid changes to address environmental injustices. But when you're doing that, you sort of, New York City is this ecosystem and you introduce some kind of major change, it's going to cause some disturbance. So you need to sort of figure out what those things are and figure out if there's ways to address them. And so, you can't just sort of wave your magic wand and all of a sudden policy is done. There's a lot to consider and there's a lot of, New York is a big, complicated place.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd like to open up the conversation to everyone else. What are some obstacles you faced in your field and career that you like to share, and tell us more about how you were able to overcome them?
I'll go. I think, on the policy and the motion side of things, when you're working on policy, and I think, stakeholders, right? Stakeholders are quite important in making sure that if anything that you're doing involves the community. And so one of the things is like, getting your community organized is something that's the quite hardest thing to do when you have to reach out and say, hey, there's this issue, but there's so many issues going on, so many inequalities, so many injustices that are happening to communities all around the world. So, in your own community, I think finding those stakeholders that are actually already working on the problem is going to be quite difficult because there's, again, thousands and thousands of organizations that are working on different type of issues, different type of topics. You might not even find an organization that's working on your issue and stuff like that. So definitely looking and finding that community has been quite difficult, but in the long run, you'll find your niche, and you'll get help at the end of the road once you keep trying. So one of the hardest things for me was finding that community and finding people who would support me. But yeah, I am here because community helped me get here. So yeah.
I have a question that we have. We probably have a lot of people out there who are here with us today and beyond, who might not necessarily be as interested in, like, let's say, air quotes, a traditional, path of education to their first job. They might not be interested in going to college. They might be, not be interested in that path. What sorts of things, like Ellie, for example, I know you are doing a lot of things to support workforce development programs and opportunities for youth, for students in New York City. I know all of you are in one way or another. What would be your, what have you learned that maybe could help those people who are kind of interested in more of the, let's say, non-traditional pathways to a career or a job?
I mean, if you're interested in sustainability or like green jobs, I think in the future, every single job is going to be a green job no matter what you do. We can't not do that. We don't have an option to sort of stay the way we are right now. So there's always room to integrate, if you care a lot about this topic, there's always ways to integrate it into whatever you're doing. I'll give an example. When I graduated college during the last financial crisis that we had, And it was really hard to find a job that was, you know, that you were supposed to get that college degree for, you know. So after some stumbling and, you know, some, you know, minimum wage type jobs, you know, I managed to find those minimum wage type jobs in, say, the farmer's market or, you know, a plant nursery or things like that. And I ended up at a heating, ventilation, and AC wholesaler, which is like, I had totally had no clue that was ever going to be related to to like sustainability and what I wanted to do. Turns out is like the #1 thing that we need to address in the city. And so like this background that I had that I thought was totally random and totally unconnected to my career goals was like, turns out to be super central to, you know, what I've learned. But you know, that in terms of the, you know, non-college routes, definitely there's a lot available. Most construction work, it can be very good jobs, especially if you sort of find pathways into the union, which I know DOE has been working on. Unions can provide you with really, really strong benefits, really, really good wages, and you're doing a lot if you're doing construction work to support the sustainability of our city by building greener buildings and greener infrastructure that we need to make all of us, you know, happier, healthier, and, you know, continue to exist on this planet as, you know, as a species.
I just, I couldn't agree with Ellie more. I mean, I think I would tell you 2 things. Learn how to write some computer software code. You can do that online for free. And everyone should know how to do that, no matter what job you do. And then second, I agree. I think, you know, if you can become an electrician or something like that, or an HVAC installer, you know, in the future in New York City, you're going to be a really, really wealthy person because there are not enough electricians and people who install heating systems and air conditioning systems, as Ellie said. And the people who go into those jobs, you don't necessarily need to have a college degree. You might be good with your hands or good with using your mind to solve problems in the real world. And those people are going to make a lot of money and they're going to be helping the planet. So I think that's really important.
I'll take a different approach to this because I'm also currently a college student, a sophomore, and I've been offered many jobs. I think it's about experience in the sense of like, if you're good at something, for instance, you know, policy writing or even getting involved in making a difference, a lot of people tend to notice that, and, you know, getting to go to the places that you might want, you know, your dream job is to intern for one of these. You know, if you're wanting to get into government and you're wanting to be more involved in the actual policy writing aspect of things, you can actually, you know, call up your local representative, whether that being local, state, or even, you know, nationwide, and see if they're interested in, you know, just getting connected, emailing people back and forth. I know I've been offered many jobs by just emailing people and just saying, hey, I'm good at this, I've done this, right? And just showing that you have experience. So definitely it doesn't hurt to try to email people and try to get connected because you can get a job out of it.
That's a really good point, Kevin. That I haven't really heard too many people say that, but it's so true that advocacy and community organizing itself can be a way to gain experience. That's a really good point. All really good points. Does anybody else have anything else to add to that? Do you have any other questions here?
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of questions from the audience, and I'd just like to go over some of them with you guys. One of which is for Donnel. Did you pursue becoming a board member on the nonprofits you mentioned, or did they approach you? Have you learned anything from that process worth sharing with everyone here? You're muted. Thank you.
Yeah, I was running my mouth. I think if you're interested in joining the board of a nonprofit and really trying to take a leadership position in terms of organizations that deal with climate change, all of these organizations want to have young people, you know, on their boards because they want to have, you know, representatives of the younger generation, in their board meetings, kind of advising them, because as was said earlier, young people are the future, and we're just not going to be able to solve any of the problems, particularly on climate, without aggressive leadership from young people. So I would tell you to never back down, and always, speak your mind. And I think Kevin is a great example of that. And let your voice be heard. I think, any organization that you're going to join the board of, you want to have a relationship with that organization and know how it works. So you may be like a volunteer with that organization, and you may be a member of the organization. And then at a certain point, if a board seat opens up, they may ask you, or you may inquire, hey, I really want to increase my level of involvement, with this nonprofit, I'd be interested in serving on the board. So I would tell you to never be shy. If there's an organization that you care about, that you are a member of and a part of and a volunteer with, and you can ask them, hey, I'm interested in increasing my level of service here. I'm interested in joining the board or joining the advisory board, so that I can listen and learn from board meetings and offer my opinion. Even if I'm not on the full board, you can be on an advisory board. And so I would strongly recommend that all of you as young leaders take a look at that.
If I may add on, Donnel brings a great point. I run a nonprofit, and so any of your young leaders interested, it's a youth-led nonprofit. So definitely OneUpAction is a great resource for anyone that is wanting to get involved in climate justice work, or even in policy writing, or even helping other young leaders and change makers take action on climate. So check out OneUpAction, and we definitely have a lot of volunteer positions available.
And just to add to that, as Donnel mentioned, more and more organizations are seeing the importance of bringing youth voice into boards, but a lot just haven't kind of come around to that quite yet, or it hasn't even been top of mind. So write them and tell them why it's important and why they should consider bringing youth voice onto that board, and why it's helpful for their organization to consider that perspective now. I think young people that are proactive often get heard from organizations even before kind of more established seasoned adults do. So always use your voice when you can.
Yeah,
Yes,
Jen.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was just there's a question from Oma Ali that I thought was good.
I was going to ask Jennifer and Ellie if they'd want to add to the conversation about how youth can get involved with work you do, or climate work in general, since a lot of people who are listening might want to know. Yeah.
Sure. So with the work that I'm involved in, we do have a youth advisory council. So for youth who are looking to get their voices heard, we go to our youth to learn what is the best way to, one, make connections with young people across our city, because we do, and we want to hear the voices of the people who live in our neighborhoods where we're based, and get them activated and involved with the work that we do. And also with our youth who are interested, especially in pursuing or getting to know what careers are out there, programs where they can figure out if research is their thing. We have research type of opportunities through our Project True program, teens researching urban ecology. They work with Fordham University and students there who are pursuing their own degrees. And we also have it's now called YOA, our Youth Ocean Advocates. So we even have youth who are getting their feet wet, for lack of better terms, in advocacy. And to kind of look at one of the questions in helping communities, it was asked by Oma Ali about getting others to join the fight. A lot of our youth are involved in making community connections and, reaching out to members of our community, explaining what we're doing, explaining their concerns, and working with members of our community to get them on board to take actions that will benefit the community as a whole. So a lot of what we do is working with our communities and forming partnerships, and ultimately reaching a goal that we both would benefit from.
I think you wanted me to answer that question as well, right? Okay, well, so there's some formal ways you can get involved. I'm going to leave some links in the chat now. One is at bringit.nyc. There's a whole list of things. It's an action-oriented website of things you can do. One of the things on there, though, is that you can come to the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and sort of discuss, what matters to you, what are the environmental issues that you care about, and then, we use that and when we're developing policies, programs, and other things. So encourage you to do that, bring your friends. And then I also left our social media, which has various calls to action based on, things that come up at the time. But don't limit it to city government. Don't limit it to just those formal channels. We value activism. Please continue to push us to do more and to do better. And you can do that without, without us. You don't need to know everything about the energy system or all of that to be able to do that work. You need to bring your values, which you already have, and your experience as a New Yorker, which you also already have, and sort of tell us what the world is that you want it to look like in the future, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. I would like to add that I am involved in my community and with my school, and honestly, you just need a space where everyone is open to conversation and open to creating projects in your own school, community, town, and in any scale. So it just starts with having the conversation, and for everyone here who are listening, definitely encourage finding friends or peers who are willing to listen or have this conversation with you. Ellie, did you have something to say?
Nope, just
Okay.
accidentally unmuted myself.
Okay. So thank you all for speaking today and answering our questions. And we do have a list of resources document, which either you will have access to it or we can send it to you. But thank you for coming. Thank you, panelists, for answering the questions. And I will now pass the mic to Eliza.
Awesome. Yay, everyone in the chat, if you want to give a round of applause, please do. Thank you all so much for coming to our panel today. If you're a student, please stick around. We're going to wrap up the Climate Summit with a couple of different interactive activities with you guys. But for all of our panelists, thank you so much for coming. This really means a lot, especially in a virtual setting where we don't always get to talk about careers and have those kind of interpersonal connections, talking about next steps for students. This really means a lot to kind of see all the different examples from you guys and to learn how different students can take their own kind of paths in a climate or sustainability field. So really, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for coming today. We hope to continue this relationship with you guys in the future. So thank you all so much. Awesome. And then I'm going to share my screen and continue on with the students. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Cool. So for all the students still here, we just want to make sure we're wrapping up the Climate Summit with you guys in a good kind of way. So big thank you to our panelists. We've heard a lot today about climate careers, specific pathways in the climate change and sustainability fields. But I just wanted to also bring home the point that really no matter what you do, you can always bring this lens of sustainability, climate, and equity into your work. So that doesn't matter if you're really into songwriting or into teaching or government, or you're a business owner, you can always bring this lens with you. And we'd love to see that happening going forward, because to, tackle the climate crisis and to move forward, it's going to take all of us, not just a couple of us working in specific fields. So I just wanted to bring home that point specifically and share with you guys this visual that I saw the other day that I thought would really maybe help you guys in figuring out what your next steps are. So this is a Venn diagram by Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson that I think kind of illustrates what the panelists have been talking about in a nice way. So it's the point of this Venn diagram is to help you figure out what should you be doing with your future. And I like that she splits it into 3 main parts. What are you good at? So what are your special skills, your network, your resources, your magic? What brings you joy? So what gets you up in the morning? What really motivates you? And what is the work that needs doing? So what are these big kind of issues that we're trying to tackle, like the climate crisis, like issues with justice and equity? So thinking of those 3 things and kind of figuring out where you want to add yourself into all that mix. So Pat should be adding the link to this in the chat. Also, you could take a screenshot of this, but yeah, give this a try. If you're thinking about trying to figure out what your next steps are, try to fill out this Venn diagram and see kind of where you fit in. So again, we're going to try something a little bit different today to kind of hear from you guys a little bit more. So please head to slido.com, and once you get there, enter the code YCS21. So we'd love to hear from you, to describe the Youth Climate Summit in 1 word. So let me pop over there. So we're gonna head to slido.com. You don't need to log in or anything. You just need to put in the code YCS21 when you get there. So I'm gonna activate the poll. So once you get there, put in a word. Describe the Youth Climate Summit to you in 1 word. If you've been here for 4 weeks, if you've been here for just 1 week, kind of say what, how you've been feeling from the Youth Climate Summit. So we're getting in some answers now. Ooh, inspirational, informative, amazing. I love to hear it. This is great. Fascinating, motivational, fun. Yeah, great. This is really great. Yeah, this is like what we like to see. Because when we talk about climate change, it can be really heavy, right? It can be a lot of worries that come out. But this idea of becoming inspired, becoming informed, and really thinking of that next step, that's huge. Oh, I love this. Nice. New friends, fascinating, energizing. Oh man, this is great. So I'm gonna leave the Slido open so you can keep putting answers in. But if you could hop back with me to the PowerPoint, we're gonna also ask for your opinion a little bit different from we've done in the past weeks. So today, we'd like you to share out how would you like to take action after the Youth Climate Summit. So attending the Climate Summit is just one part of this. The whole time we've been talking about making a climate action plan, figuring out how you want to engage in your community and take these next steps. So we want to hear from you right now. So I'm going to have Pat help me out a bit, but if you're interested in sharing out loud, please raise your hand, like we talked about at the beginning, the logistics. Raise your hand and we'll let you share out loud to see what kind of action you want to take after the Youth Climate Summit. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you're welcome to share how you want to take action in the chat. Pat, do you see some people?
I do, yep. I'm going to go ahead and unmute Anthony Infante.
Awesome.
Hey, Anthony.
So, hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, I will take action after the YCS is by helping my community to get resources and engaging the community to help our cause about doing something about the climate change, like planting seeds, spreading the word. Also, engaging our students. I also want to teach more the students in my school so they can help their communities too.
I love that. That's amazing. I think you mentioned a lot of really cool things. Reaching out to your community, talking to people, seeing what they're interested in. I mean, all of those things sound like amazing next steps. Thank you so much for sharing, Anthony. Pat, does someone else want to share out?
Yep, I've got Nadia Islam is ready to go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
So just like what Anthony, I believe, said, the real main action an important action to take is just to spread our words without using our voice. We can't really change anything. We can't really change anyone's mind or anything. So I feel like after this inspirational 4 weeks, I really learned a lot from all the students, especially because it's been really surprising that there is people on like me that are on board with me. So I've learned a lot from other students and even teachers and leaders. And I would like to maybe just work small and just work my way up there, just and inspiring my school and just using the resources that I have and using the most out of it.
Awesome. Nadia, I love that. I like your idea of starting small and growing up, looking at the resources and seeing how you can apply it. I think both Nadia and Anthony both mentioned working with your school community as well. So it could be joining a green team or finding a different environmental club at your school. I think that's great. Pat, are there any things coming in on the chat, or is there another student that wants to share out loud?
It doesn't look like anybody else wants to share out loud. Again, if you do, you can raise your hand and I'll go ahead and unmute you. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable, you prefer to just type in an answer, that's totally fine as well in the chat. Okay, it looks like we got one coming in from JP.
Hi, my name is JP. I'm from Truman High School, where my STEM teacher, Elizabeth, she is my climate teacher that we were studying about our planet Earth, how we can stay, how we do our environment, or how should we clean our planet Earth, and how people need to get vaccinated, how we need to stay healthy and stay clean.
Awesome, JP. It sounds like you guys are learning a lot of really good stuff in your school right now. That's great. Thank you for sharing. I think we're going to have to move on, but I mean, it was really awesome to hear from some of you. Here's some other ideas that we thought up with the YLC that's been helping us plan the climate summit. So things like I've heard also you guys mentioned looking at organizations in your neighborhood. I think in some of the workshops you guys talked about looking up representatives that in your local election areas. Also messaging a classmate or a friend who attended with you to help you be your accountability moving forward. So these are definitely some actions you guys can take, and I'm so glad to hear that you're already thinking of what you want to do. So that kind of leads into our last main thing. A lot of the high school students that have been with us for the 4 weeks have been working on your climate action plan. So this is your call to submit your plan. These plans are really going to help us kind of moving forward, seeing what you guys are interested in, what really is where your passions lie, what you want to see your school community doing. So we'd love to see these plans. So when you submit your plan to us, just an FYI for you, we'll be posting your caps, not with your names, but with the name of your school, so that other schools can kind of see what you're up to and gain inspiration from you guys, because it's just as important for you to gain inspiration from other people already working in the field as for schools to gain inspiration from each other. We're also going to be following up with your schools when you submit the plan to see how is it going. Check in with you. Do you need any support from our office or from our partner organizations? So we'll follow up with you. And then finally, this year we're working with Teachers College at Columbia University to share your goals with the current New York City mayoral candidates. So this is really huge. This means that your goals, what you guys are hoping to do, will be shared with the candidates that are running to be mayor right now. So that means your voice will be directly influencing people that are going to be mayor of the city in the future. So it's really huge. Please submit your plan. If you have questions for us, you're welcome to reach out to us, but we'd love to hear from you. And finally, I wanted to end the day with this quote from Mary Anais Heglar. She's an American activist, climate activist and writer. And the quote goes, oops, sorry. It's true that you can't solve the climate crisis alone, but it's even more true that we can't solve it without you. So I really like this quote. When my friend shared it with me, I thought it really resonated. Sometimes it can seem like the climate crisis is too big for any one of us to take on, that, you know, it's too overwhelming, it can seem daunting. But this idea that we can't do it alone and we can't do it without you, we must be working together. I think that's really huge, and I think that's a really good way to end our 4th week of our Youth Climate Summit. So thank you all so much for being here. Please, in the chat, shout out the different organizations that made this past month possible. Shout out the Youth Leadership Council that led all of your climate action planning sessions, that made this whole event happen. Please thank the different staff from the Office of Sustainability that made this happen. You know, we couldn't be here without you. You guys are really like how this came together. And finally, a huge thank you to all the students and teachers that came to this, because you're the reason why we're doing this. You know, we're always happy to help support you guys in any way that you need. So thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and, you know, be in touch with us. We'll send you some follow-up materials, like Sarah mentioned, different resources from the different organizations that were here today. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for coming. This has been a wonderful, weird virtual experience, but really great. Thank you to Pat. Thank you to Thad for making this happen. Pat, do you want to say anything?
Nope, just gonna echo what Eliza said. Thank you all. I mean, we couldn't do this without you, obviously. So huge shout out to all of you for coming and for continuing the work. And like Eliza said, stay engaged. So whether that's with us, whether that's with your co-teachers, other students in your school, just keep the conversation going.
Yes, that's huge. Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and we'll be in touch. Take care. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.